Welcome to Snoozers Storytime Adventures. How are we doing today, Snoozer?
I am curious because I have no idea what we are reading about today.
You don't? Well, I can fill you in because I have a very special story that I wanted to read today, and it is about this beautiful cathedral. It is called The Story of Notre Dame de Paris, and the title of the book is called The Girl in the Cathedral. And it is a real beautiful building that you can see in Paris, France, but the girl in the story, this is just a fiction story about a real thing that really does exist. She is going to spread hope and love, and maybe that'll inspire others to always have hope and love in their hearts, and then anything can be possible. All right, and inside this is another Bushel and Peck book, and there is so much beautiful information and pictures that you can learn all about this famous cathedral. The author is Nicholas Jeter. All right. It was a starry, starry night. The river was silent, but also loud with the sounds that rivers make. Beyond the reeds on an island in the river, a faint scratching rose above the gurgle of the water. It was a small girl. She was digging in the dirt, the way children like to do. Her clothes were dirty, caked in damp earth. "You're making a mess," I said. "No," the little girl said. "I am making a garden. That means getting dirty." I smiled. "And what sort of garden are you planting?" She smiled too. "Oh, you'll see." I went on my way, thinking of other things. I knew, as grown-ups like to think they know, that the mud and rocks in that river would never be a garden. But when I visited again, I saw that I was wrong. The island burst with colors and light and life, and there was the little girl standing happily with her hands on her waist and dirt on her knees. "Just look at my garden," she said. "I have filled it with good things." Everywhere, flowers pushed from the soil. More remarkable still, the garden was filled with people. Tucked around the flowers were houses, shops, and dusty sheds, where children played, mothers sang, and fathers laughed. "Who are all these people?" I asked. "They are my people, and this is the garden called Paris." "I have seen few gardens grow so beautifully," I said to the little girl. "Is it finished?" She laughed. "Not at all." And from out of her pocket, she drew a large, curious seed. "This is not like my other seeds," the little girl said, seeing the puzzled look on my face. "With this seed, one could plant anything she wanted. One could plant a mountain, a forest, a giant. One could even plant an ocean." "And what do you want to plant?" I asked. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "This seed is for my people, and since I am a gardener, I will plant for them a flower." She buried the seed deep, deep within the earth, in the part of the island where dreams and stories met. "Now we wait," she said. "For how long?" I asked. The little girl said nothing, but slowly under the light of the moon, the touch of the rain, and the watchful eyes of the stars, something began to stir.
How does it grow so fast?
Well, it must be some sort of magical seed, because this isn't a true story, but it is based on a true cathedral that really does exist. And kept on growing until, where the seed had been just moments before, stood a flower unlike any I had ever seen. It started small, as all things start. Then it grew and grew and kept on growing until where the seed had been just moments before stood a flower unlike any I had ever seen. It was a flower made of stone. Two great towers stood tall like twin mountains overlooking the island. Hundreds of mighty ancient trees formed a roof, a forest to shelter the garden called Paris. Inside, pillars stronger than the sky rose high, high above the island. Giants carved in strength and wonder. And outside, brilliant stained glass windows shimmered like the surface of the sea, bathing the garden in an ocean of color, light, and mystery. This was Notre Dame, the Lady of Paris. You see the beautiful cathedral?
Yes, it looks very pretty.
Like any garden that is loved, Paris grew. And when next I saw the little girl, she was standing in the river, water up to her ankles. I smiled. Her clothes were wet, the kind of wet that would get any child in trouble. "What are you painting?" I asked. "My garden is growing," she said. "I'm trying to make a picture of it before everything changes. It's hard to remember things once they change, you know. The people of Paris change too. All at once they are rich and poor, hungry and fed, happy and sad. Sometimes they fight, sometimes they sing. And at the center of it all is my flower, Notre Dame. That is something to try to paint." Suddenly, there was a loud shout, a splash, and both the little girl and her painting bobbed in the water. A boy ran past, laughing and holding a baguette high above his head. An angry baker shouted, "Thief!" I helped the little girl to her feet. She sighed. "There are also people who do things I don't like. I am learning that not all people remember to do good things." "So," I said, setting her painting back on the easel, "you are growing both good things and bad things in your garden? Why not just grow good things?" She laughed. "That is not how gardening works." La pluie ne regarde pas avant de tomber. And that was in French. It means the rain does not look before it falls. "Besides," she added, swiping her brush across the canvas again, "you can't always tell what kinds of flowers are growing." As the little girl had said, Paris continued to change. The garden sprouted great towers of iron and industry and ideas. "Do you see my new flowers?" she asked. Literature blossomed, science bloomed, music and art waved in the wind. "And look," she cried, "do you see that blue flower over there? That one is liberty. And the white one, that is equality. The little red ones are fraternity." "Why did you plant those flowers?" I asked. "Because they make the other flowers grow better," she laughed, almost a song. "And they are only a beginning. That is what happens when good things are planted." But something happened that I did not expect. Darkness grew at the edge of the garden. "Something terrible has come to Paris," the little girl said. The streets filled with soldiers and fighting and fear, and her flowers seemed to wilt. The little girl stopped smiling. "It will be hard to grow my garden now," she said. "What is this thing?" I asked fearfully, pointing at the darkness. The little girl knelt down over her small flowers, as if to shield them. An explosion shattered the sky. "This is called war," she said. I looked at Notre Dame. "Your greatest flower is still standing," I said. "Yes," the little girl said, wiping away a tear. "She is trying to help my people. There is so much that needs protecting." Her voice was impossibly soft, but somehow louder than the sounds of war. The little girl did not stop planting flowers. She grew hope. She watered courage. She planted freedom until finally there was peace. Notre Dame's bells rang across the garden, a song of joy for her people. "They will be happy again," said the little girl, dancing with the music. "What will you do now?" I asked, knowing already what she would say. "There is still so much work to do," the little girl said. "One must never stop planting good things." She dug and she raked, she pruned and she watered. Even stronger, her flowers reached for the sun, celebrating life, color, and love. As always, Notre Dame watched. The people of Paris hoped she would watch forever, and so did I.
Mrs. Hamilton, can you go back?
Yes, Snoozer, I can.
What is that guy called?
This guy?
Yeah, who is that guy?
A gargoyle. It is like a stone creature or statue that goes on buildings. You like that?
Yes, I do.
I think there are a lot of them. Oh no! But one day the little girl came running to find me. She was crying. Ma fleur brûlée, which means my flower burns. And then, asking no one in particular, why do flowers burn? We ran to the island. Flames rose high above and through the roof of Notre Dame. The mountain tower seemed about to fall. The forest that was the roof burned, its memories rising with the ashes, lost to the stars. The giant pillars that had seemed too strong for the sky trembled. And the windows, all the windows that bathed Paris in an ocean of color, now reflected only fire in the eyes of all who watched. My flower is alone, the little girl said, crying. What can we do to save her? I don't know, I whispered. I've never been a gardener before. Je suis triste, which means I am sad. And there really was a fire. There really was a fire in this cathedral.
Aww.
But then we heard a sound, a most unexpected sound. It rose from the size of the smallest thought until it filled the garden called Paris, stronger even than the sound of the roaring fire. The people had begun to sing. The little girl raised her head. Do you know what that sound is? She asked me. It's singing, I said, but we've heard the people sing many times. Not like this, she said, shaking her head. This is the song of remembering. My people will save Notre Dame. How? I asked. What is a song against a fire? The little girl looked at me. Light. A light that wasn't light from a fire blazed in her eyes. I planted Notre Dame inside the hearts of my people, where fire cannot reach. Tears had streaked small paths down the soot of her face. It's time you see my garden the way I see it. And there are all the people singing. So Notre Dame is alive in their hearts, so they are just going to rebuild. I squeezed the little girl's hands, with saints and soldiers, with kings and revolutionaries, with mothers and children, with thinkers and dreamers, and students and builders. We sang of light, we sang of love, we sang of hope, we sang and we sang and we sang. The music swelled, the wind rushed around us, carrying a song of memory, and soon the fire died, but Notre Dame did not. As the last smoke rose to the sky, the little girl and I walked along the rubble of soot of her burned, beloved flower. She will grow again, I said, but she will never be the same. The little girl wiped her hands. That is what it is to be a gardener, she said. Things will never stay the same. There will always be weeds and wars and even fires. But you do not stop planting hope and love just because you can't keep bad things away. That's what gardeners are for. I smiled, but knew that the time had come for me to leave. I will always think of you and your flowers, I said. Happy tears welled in the little girl's eyes. Here, you must take some of my seeds, she said. I hope when you return to Notre Dame, you will tell me of the flowers you have planted. But I do not know where to plant flowers, I said. The little girl laughed. Plant flowers wherever you are. Even rocks can be a garden if you treat them like they are beautiful. I turned and began to walk away slowly, the way a person does when they don't really want to leave. As the garden called Paris grew more distant, a cold wind stung my face. I thought of the little girl. I thought of Notre Dame. The world I saw was filled with gardens, and all of them needed good things. I reached for the seeds in my pocket. This is a good spot for some flowers, I said. And that is another beautiful story by Bushel and Peck. There's so much other things that you can read through and discover.
Wow, it was really long and really beautiful.
It was beautiful and has a nice message to always spread love and hope.
Are we going to sing a song?
Sure are, Snoozer. I thought I would sing a French song since that book took place in France. And it is a famous song, a song you may know. It's 100 years old, called Alouette.
Great!
It's a song about a little bird called Alouette. Alouette, gentille Alouette, Alouette, je te plumerai la tête, je te plumerai la tête, et la tête, Alouette, 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 gentille Alouette, Alouette, je te plumerai le bec, je te plumerai le bec, et le bec, et le bec, et la tête, Alouette, 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 gentille Alouette, Alouette, je te plumerai.
Is that in French?
Yes, it is a French song. It's 100 years old. It originated in Quebec, and it's a song that many people use to learn how to speak French. Well, I thought since we were learning all about spreading love and hope, as the girl did when she planted her garden, that we could make a little flower craft.
Yay!
So this is the flower we're going to be making today. So you're going to need the sheet that looks like this and another white sheet that you can put the pieces onto so your flower doesn't wilt. So let's start cutting and then we'll put it together. I'm going to put my other one right there so I can see how I want to do this. All right, well, let's start off by working on the flower. So I'm going to turn this yellow part over, put some glue in the middle, add the petals. Can't forget the love, right, Snoozer?
Yep, just like the story we read.
That's right. The garden was planted with love and hope. And that's a good reminder for all of us, Snoozer. No matter what happens in life, plant seeds of love and hope, and things can rise from the ashes and maybe even turn out better than they were, or in a direction that we didn't expect, that fills us with many blessings. All right, so I'll see you and all of our friends next time. Bye.
Hi, boys and girls. Would you like to do the Mrs. Hamilton craft just like me? Guess what? You can! Head to your local library for all the materials that we use in the craft. Plus, we have activity sheets, games, and a whole lot more. Your library might even